Hi there, my name is Carl-Frederick, and I will be explaining today the dependency theory. The theory was founded by Raoul Prebisch, a liberal reformer, and cooperating with him is Hans Singer and the Marxist approach by Andre Gunder Frank in the 1950s. The theory itself states that the economic growth in industrialized countries did not lead to the growth in the poorer countries. In fact, it was the opposite. Based on the studies, economic activities in industrialized countries often led to economic problems in poorer countries. Raoul explained that poor countries exported primary goods to the rich countries, who then manufactured products out of those, then sold back to the poor countries at a much higher rate. The value added to a usable product compared to the primary good used to make it was significantly different. So poor countries do not really make that much money off their exports. The solution proposed was doable. Poorer countries should embark on programs of import substitution so that they don't need to purchase final product from industrialized countries. They will keep the business of export with the other countries, but wouldn't have to spend the income they make from export on buying the final product back. Some policies were hard to follow due to the fact that poorer countries were not large enough to support the economy of scale. The political will of poorer countries were simply too low. And last, the actual control that those countries had on their own goods were out of their hands. The dependency theory was redefined as basically an explanation of the economic development of a state in terms of politics, economics, and culture. Historical condition which shapes a certain structure of the world economy such that it favors some countries to the detriment of others. Dependency characterizes the international system as comprised of two sets of states, variously described as dominant versus dependent. The dominant states are the advanced industrial nations. The dependent states are those of Latin America, Asia, Africa, which have low per capita GNPs and which rely heavily on the export of single commodity for sovereign exchange earnings. The external forces are of singular importance to the economic activities within the dependent states. These external forces include multinational corporations, international commodity markets, foreign assistance, communications, and other means by which the advanced industrialized countries can represent their economic interests abroad. The graph that you will be presenting next shows the comparison inside of how many countries are really exporting and the vast amount of countries that are importing and what goods are actually being exchanged between one another. The definitions of dependency all indicate that the relations between dominant and dependent states are dynamic, because the interaction between the two sets of states tend to not only reinforce but also intensify the unequal patterns. The dependency theory also falls under the world system theory founded by Wallerstein, which explains the interregional and transnational division of labor, which divides the world into core countries, semi-periphery countries, and the periphery countries. Core countries focus on higher scale, capital-intensive production, and the rest of the world focus on low-scale, labor-intensive production and extraction of raw material. This constantly reinforces the dominance of the core countries. Some strengths that come into that theory are worldwide theory, the fact that it falls under it, multiple applications, and the fact that it's simple. The weakness of the theory is that it promotes core dominance. It is cynical and sometimes just too simple. Most dependency theories regard international capitalism as the motive force behind dependency relationship. Andre Gunder Frank said that historical research demonstrates a contemporary underdevelopment is in large part in the historical product of past and continuing. In its most literal form, we see the dependency theory in action with everything we buy, as Mo says. Hecho in Mexico, for example, provides cheap labor and eventually they will end up buying those products back. Now, in regards to mass communications, the more dependent an individual is on the media for having his or her needs fulfilled, the more important the media will be to that person. The problem with that is that most people now become dependent and believe anything they get from this media outlet. They build that sense of ignorance where they accept what they tell them without even questioning it.